Hello everyone, this is Vinayak going to discuss about 10th class social chapter number 2 federalism. Federalism. Earlier in the previous chapter, power sharing, you have studied about two countries, that is Belgium and Sri Lanka. So in that we learned about majoritarianism and then regarding how Belgium could accommodate all the different types of people into one systematic form of administration, and how Sri Lanka, in the other side, how Sri Lanka faced the civil war for almost 3.5 decades, by which it lost a lot of economy, tourism, and its income. So now we are going to discuss in this chapter what is federalism. What is federalism? A federal state. What is a federal country? A federal state, we call a federal state where it has more than one level of government, which means either that country will have two levels of government or more than two levels of governments. So such countries are called federal countries. The countries which have only one level, that is only one type of government, that is like central government we call, they are called as unitary form of government. But we are going to study about federalism. The first and foremost example we can take India as the first example, because why we call India as a federal country? Before that, we say India, as we all know, that we have a very large population, and then along with that, we have we are called as a secular country because we have so many religions. So, and we are very much diverse country where we have a lot of diversities, we have a lot of different types of cultures, we have different types of religion, we have different types of languages. See, we have more than 750 languages spoken in our country. So it's a very big diversified country. So for all these things, our constitution has been framed in such a way that all of us are living unitedly and following the constitution. That's why India, and also we are the largest democratic country, and we have largest the biggest and largest written constitution in the world. So now even India is considered as a federal country. Why do we call it a federal country? Because in our country, after we got our independence in the year 1947, we were given much, our administration gave much importance for two levels of government. Two levels of government, that is the central government and the state governments. And then the third tier, we call it as different tiers of government. We have the third tier government also, which is called as the Panchayat Raj government. But for many years, the third tier government, the Panchayat Raj government, was not having much powers, which was later on the constitution was amended in the early 1990s, and then enormous powers were given to the third level of government also. So we have three tier system of government. We follow three tier system of government. What are they? They are the central government, state government, and the Panchayat Raj governments. So here we are enjoying three different tiers. So why do we need three different tiers? For a small example, if we have any small problem in the villages, the people can't run or rush to the central government and ask for the solution. Whereas if it is a federal country, the powers are shared among different levels of the government, and all the solution, all the problems can be sorted out in that areas itself. So that's why in any federation, the three different tiers enjoy separate jurisdictions. They have their own powers. The powers are shared among themselves. And then they are how these are possible. How all these things are possible. We all know there are three branches in a state. What you studied in class 8th. What are the three branches of the state? First one is the legislature. Second one is the judiciary. Third one is the bureaucrats. What do we call for bureaucrats? Executives. So all the three levels of the state are legislation, executive, and the judiciary. So the legislatures are the elected representatives who are elected by the people, and then executives are the bureaucrats who implement the laws, and judiciary are the courts and the judges who take care of the constitution as well as to check all the laws which are being implemented as per the constitution or not. So these three play a major role in the government. So now the constitution clearly provided a threefold distribution of legislative powers between the union government and the state governments. Thus here we have three different lists. What are those we are going to learn? Further, what are these three lists? That is, one is we have three lists are union list, state list, concurrent list. What do you mean by union list? What do you mean by state list and the concurrent list? Here, union list means some of the powers which are taken care only by the union government. It includes which subjects for the national importance, such as, like, national importance means like the defense, air force, all the defense, that is all three armies, that is air force, navy, and the military. They are all under the jurisdiction of the union list because they have to protect the country. Then next comes, after defense of the country, next we come under the foreign affairs. All the foreign affairs are taken care under the union list because all this comes under only for the state, for the central government only, not for the state government. The reason is it should be common, it should be uniform. That's why only the central government has to take care of it. Defense and the external ministry, what we call. That's why when you see in the state government, you never see an external affairs minister or a defense minister. You never see in the state governments. they are only with the central governments only. The same way, banking, we have banking generally comes in the Ministry of Finance. So Ministry of Finance, here we have finance ministers even in the state governments also, but the powers are very limited. For example, in banking, like we have Reserve Bank for every state, but what is common there, what is not common. Here, every part of the banking is done, but finally it comes under the Reserve Bank. And for example, even the printing of currency notes and everything, it is only under the control of the central government, that is union list. The same way, communications, all the communications like internet, mobile phones, telephones, and other modes of communication, everything will be under the union list. Then next comes, as we were discussing about the banking, during that banking, printing of currency. Printing of currency will be taken care only by the Reserve Bank of India under the guidance of RBI governor as well as the finance minister of the country. That is for the union government. It will be taken care by them. Now, next coming up, the union government alone can make laws relating to subjects in the union list. So there is no interference of the state governments. There is no interference of the any other levels of the government. Here only they take the suggestions, but all the decision making will be under the union government only, and laws can be passed. But as we all know, any law which we have to implement, or if we have to bring any law, it has to be passed through the parliament, which has to get the two-third majority. Then only it can be, the bills have to be passed, then only it can be implemented. Now, what is the state list? We shall know about the state list. It contains subjects of state and local importance, such as the police. Police, you see, in every state, every district, every village, we see police stations, policemen, and all. And we have home ministry in a state. State home minister also is there. But the all the things which we are going to learn here is, even though we have police department of the state, we have the central home ministry also. So everything they have to coordinate each other and work about the police. The same way, even we have trade. Trade means here all types of business which comes, whether it is agricultural business or any other business, where all the things the state government has some of the powers for which they can do the trade and commerce. Here, revenues also, they will have, for example, the state government can collect some taxes. For example, for any goods what are manufactured and what are sold, the sales tax can be collected by the state government's revenues. The same way union government collects income tax from the people. The same way state government has the rights to pick the sales tax and other taxes like excise duties, vehicle taxes, and etc. So there are many types of taxes which are being collected, and these are all the revenue generating incomes for the governments. It is divided for the central government as well as the state government and as well as the third level of government, that is our Panchayat Raj government. So every state has their own way of collecting the revenues or earning the revenues. So for agriculture, it depends what type of soil they have, how much cultivation is taken care in the particular state. All that it depends on the state government only. So only the union government or the central governments will give a helping support to these state governments. For example, disasters, any natural disasters, national disasters, floods, etc. They will be taking care. So irrigation facilities, agriculture, everything, it will be given by the state government. Now, coming up to the third list, it is called as concurrent list. What is concurrent list? It includes subjects of common interest to both the union government as well as the state government. Both, they have both common interest. So what are these? First and foremost, it is the education. For example, a CBSE school is existing, a state board school is existing, an ICSE school is existing. So what does it mean? CBSE is a central government board which is run by the Human Resource Ministry, Human Resources Ministry of central government. Whereas state board is taken care by the respective regional state boards. So there is a different way of education. System will be the same, but curriculum there may be a change. So in this way, we have parallel education systems. So this comes under concurrent lists only. Forest departments are there. They also come under the concurrent list because forests are existing in various states which extend from one state to another. So there they have their own systems. So concurrent, both have to be taken care. So there should be a coordination between the union government as well as the state government to take care of. And next is like trade unions. Trade unions generally are the unions which come under large organizations. Maybe they might be semi-government or government organizations where generally labor organizations and trade unions are formed. So for such also they come under concurrent list because these trade unions exist almost in all the industrial areas and organizational sectors. Now, next comes marriage, adoption, and succession. Marriage, every religion has different way of culture and the systems of marriage, and even different regional systems and regional cultures also different. So every state has their own systems, their own cultures. So the same way adoption system, that is adopting the children and all such issues, they have, every state has their own rules or law. Every religion has their own systems, those who are living in different states in different regions. But here concurrent list, what is the reason? Because as per Constitution of India, we need to have we need to follow as per Constitution. We can't, different states cannot follow different systems, leaving a few issues. So recently, like example, we saw so many things: women's bill, women's law, triple talaq, all these things. They come under concurrent list, but everyone has to abide the constitution. Everyone has to abide the laws which have been passed. The same way succession also has different systems in our country because the property issues and all those things. Both the union as well as the state governments can make laws on the subjects mentioned in this list. If their laws conflict with each other, the law made by the union government will prevail. Why this point is being given here? If their laws conflict, because there might be two states having two different types of laws, and any one law has any problem with the other, or if they are not matching each other, or if they have any issues relating to that, then if there is any difference or a conflict with each other, then the law which is made by the union government only will prevail. So that's that's the concurrent list. And now coming up, we have few regions in our country where the government is different. What are those few regions? There are regions which are very small, smaller to the size of the states. So these could not uh, get merged with the states. So such regions, they were under the control of the central government. And later on, when were they were made as union territories. For example, like Chandigarh, Lakshadweep, Andaman and Nicobar, Diu and Daman, and these are all called as union territories. So these union territories do not have any state government, but they have some enormous powers. Additional powers are there where it is under the control of the central government. These union territories, so that's why we say some units of the Indian Union are smaller in size in comparison to other states to become an independent state and cannot be merged with other existing states. Such units are known as union territories. So here, because of these smaller, they could not merge to, such units are under the control of the central government, and it is being ruled by lieutenant governors, what we call as lieutenant governors. How we have chief ministers in different states, governors and chief ministers, we have lieutenant governors for the union territories, and it will be under the control of the central government. And we are going to continue in the next part. Hello everyone, this is Vinayak back for you. In the previous module, we learnt about federalism, in which we learnt what makes India a federal country, in which we discussed about union list, state list, and concurrent list. Now, we are going to continue the same topic with, we are going ahead with other lists, and we are going to know what our constitution has given us, in what way it was designed. So we have three separate lists where it was divided. Everything was shared among the three levels of the government. And now coming back, which type of governments we find generally in federalism, we are going to learn. So what is about types of federation. We are going to learn two types of federations. The first one we call it as coming together federation. Coming together federation means independent states voluntarily form a bigger union. They enhance their security by pooling up sovereignty and identity. The states and the center have equal powers. Here, what does these 3 points mean to us? That is, here, small states, they voluntarily come together and they wanted to form a bigger union and form a government and do the administration. So for example, we have USA, Australia and Switzerland. USA, now we call it as United States of America. Why do we call United States of America? Because smaller states have come together and then they came and they formed a federation and it became United States of America. Australia also followed the same, as well as Switzerland also. So this is called coming together federation. Now, the second one is holding together federation. A large country decides to divide its powers between the states and the center. That is nothing but it is the sharing of power. The center is always more powerful than the regional states because the power is upholded by the central government, and some units have special powers and different units have unequal powers. So overall, all the states, all the regions are holded together to form a federation. So here example is India, Spain, Belgium. In India we have so many states and all the powers. Even though we follow power sharing, even though we follow all the union lists, concurrent list, state list, even though the major power is under the control of the union government or the central government, and the central government holds together all the states and they form a federal system. How is federalism practiced? Constitutional provisions are necessary for the success of federalism, but they are not sufficient. But these are not sufficient. Even though we have constitution and there are many provisions which are necessary for the success of federalism has been given in the various constitutions of different countries, but even though they are not sufficient. For example, we already earlier we discussed about Belgium. They had to amend their constitution to make the country a federal system of government, because it followed unitary system of government earlier. Then later on, to bring it to a federal, make it a federal country, to bring it together, they amended the constitution and they made it a federal type of government. The real success of federalism in our country, in India, can be attributed to the nature of democratic politics in our country. See, it depends on the politics which we follow in our country. We have so many diversifications, or we have India follows such a large diversity with so many religions, so many languages, so many castes, and different types of culture. So for that, even there is a vast scope for democratic politics. So it depends on the nature. The success of federalism depends on its nature. As we already discussed, we follow a three-tier system. What are those three tiers? the central government, the state government, and the Panchayat Raj government. So it depends on the power sharing of these three tiers of government. This ensured that the spirit of federalism, respect for diversity, and desire for living together became shared ideals of our country. So that's why, even though we are the second largest populated in the world, and with so much of diversity as we are discussing, we have so many types of people, religion, languages, castes, and also languages we speak, and so many states are there, culture is different, way of clothing, way of food, all these things are different, but still we are having a desire for living together, and today we are successfully living together. So that's why this is a kind of spirit of federalism. So, after we got independence, when India got independence in the year 1947, we got so many problems. When we got freedom, we had to face a lot of problems, like the bloody partition, with that is India and Pakistan were separated, and lot of violence, riots, where many people lost their lives on the both the sides, in Pakistan as well as in India also. And then there was a very big task for the government to systematically set up the country in various forms. Like, if India wanted to be secular, if they wanted to be federal type of government, they had to be systematized in such a way that, then what they did, they brought linguistic states. Why this was initiated? Because India is a vast area where different regions had different types of people speaking different languages. So the government decided that if we have different states with the common language spoken in those regions can be made as separate states. If you look at the political map of India, when it began its journey as democracy in 1947, and that of today, that is 2019-20, what we are seeing, there were a lot of changes. We had a very large long journey, and at that time only few states were formed, but now, even almost in the year 2006 also, there were states formed, and even after 2010 also, the few states were formed. So this was a very big challenge for our country. So what were the changes? See, we can see in 1954, all French region became part of India, because they were small pockets which were ruled by the French. For example, Pondicherry, it was ruled by the French, and they left only in 1954. The same way, in late 1960s, Portuguese left Goa. Then Diu Daman, the Dutch left. Like that, we got those small pockets which could not be added in the states which were already formed. So at that time, what happened? They were made as union territories. What we had discussed earlier, union territories, they were under the control of the central government. And one more thing I would like to discuss is about, after we got independence, there were more than 526 princely states in our country, which were which was a very difficult task for the government to merge them in the Indian Union. For example, the biggest task was the Hyderabad state, then in Gujarat, some of the uh, pockets, some of the smaller princely states, Kashmir, it was a big issue which went on till today also. So all had to be again merged either by force or by requesting them or signing any treaties by which 526 princely states were merged into the Indian Union, and then India became republic only in the year after 1950s. So in this way, union territories were formed, state governments were formed, states were formed with the languages spoken. For example, languages Maharashtra, Marathi speaking people, Karnataka, Kannada speaking people, Andhra Pradesh, Telugu speaking people, Malayalam speaking people were formed in the Kerala, Tamil speaking people, Tamil Nadu, like that, different linguistic states were formed. Many old states have been created. Areas, boundaries, and names of the states have been changed. Yes, Hyderabad state, it existed in a very vast area during when we got independence. So it used to cover almost parts of Maharashtra, Karnataka, as well as Telangana. But later, when Hyderabad state was liberated and when it was merged into Indian Union, we got many districts. Few districts, Marathi speaking districts went to Maharashtra, Kannada speaking districts went to Karnataka. In that way, all the names also were changed. As per the latest census report in the year 1991 of India held in 2001, there are 1500 distinct languages spoken in our country. These languages were grouped together under some major languages. For example, languages like Bhojpuri, Magadhi, Bundelkhandi, Chhattisgarhi, Rajasthani, Bhili, and many others were grouped together under Hindi because the main scripture or the main vernacular part was based on the language Hindi. So in this way, many languages were spoken in our country since olden days. And we see the map of India in the year 1956. In 1947, the boundaries of several old states of India were changed in order to create new states, as we discussed about the language system. This was done to ensure that people who spoke the same language lived in the same state. Some states were created not on the basis of language, but to recognize differences based on culture, ethnicity, or geography. Here, culture, ethnicity, or geography. Here, these three things, it depends on the culture. Culture generally goes with the way of living of the people in a particular region, how they are living, what festivals they are celebrating, in what way their food habits, their living habits, all these things come under their culture. And ethnicity, how they are following their age old traditions, that is very important. And geography generally depends on the climatic conditions, weather conditions. For example, like there are places where agriculture is very low agriculture factor because of scarcity of water or some other thing, some other geographical factors. Whereas few areas where few regions we find abundant water and good fertility of the soil and very good geographical conditions for living. So all these things will be based on the geography. These include states like Nagaland, Uttarakhand, and Jharkhand. So here, these three states are examples for us. For example, Uttarakhand. Uttarakhand previously it was under the state of Uttar Pradesh, but Uttarakhand is almost completely in the hilly region of the Himalayas, greater Himalayas. So culture varies little bit from the regular Uttar Pradesh. So that's why for the development of those areas, the major income for this region in of Uttarakhand is only tourism. So for that reason, the state was separated and a separate state was made. And situations came like that. Even Jharkhand was separated from the state of Bihar, and then Nagaland was separated, and you all know that we call it as seven sisters of the northeastern states. And the same way even we can take example of Chhattisgarh, which was under Madhya Pradesh, even it was separated. And now coming to language policy. So in our country, so many major languages were there. What are those major languages? There are 21 scheduled languages which are called as official languages, we can call, and it was uh, given acceptance by the constitution of our country. 21 scheduled languages excluding Hindi. Hindi was a common language because 40% of our population speaks Hindi. So the government wanted to bring Hindi as a national language. But in the southern parts of India, it was not accepted by the people, especially in Tamil Nadu. So there was a lot of discussion regarding Hindi language as official language. So English continued as the official language, but Hindi also was parallelly going on as a official language. And these 21 scheduled languages were followed as official languages in their respective states where these languages were spoken. Now let us see in the map, like the languages which are in the map as per the regional part. So they are the official languages given. For example, Hindi in the most parts of the North India, Kashmiri, Punjabi, Nepali, Bengali, and then Odia, Marathi, Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, and many other languages, Gujarati. So, for example, now in Andhra Pradesh, previously Andhra Pradesh was there. Now we have again two states, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. So, in Telangana, because it was a Hyderabad state earlier before independence, so we have lot of the culture being continued, the system being continued by the Hyderabad state. So Urdu also is one of the official language for Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. The second test for Indian Federation is the language policy, what we were discussing. Our constitution did not give the status of national language to any one language. Hindi was identified as the official language, but Hindi is the mother tongue of only about 40% of the Indians. Therefore, there were many safeguards to protect other languages. Besides Hindi, there are 21 other languages recognized as scheduled languages by the constitution. So we have a language distribution as per our census. So you can go through it. Most languages spoken as we see in the map is the Hindi language. As we already discussed, 40% of the population speaks Hindi. Promotion of Hindi continues to be the official policy of the government of India. Promotion does not mean that central government can impose Hindi on states where people speak different languages. The flexibility shown by Indian political leaders helped our country to avoid the kind of situation that Sri Lanka finds itself in it. What is the comparison of Sri Lanka here? Because we are following secularism and federal system, we respect all the religions, all the languages, all the culture. That's why we follow all the scheduled languages. For example, when any person want to write any exam for the government jobs or anything, they can choose any language out of these 21 scheduled languages and write the examination. So that much freedom is given in our country by our constitution. Why, when compared to Sri Lanka, when we are comparing, as we already discussed earlier in the previous chapter, power sharing, what we discussed, Sri Lankans followed majoritarianism. So with this, what happened? They could not develop themselves, or they had to end up with 3.5 decades of civil war, and they never accepted Tamil as their official language, and they accepted only Sinhalese language for as official language, and they gave more reservations for the Sinhalese for the government jobs and education seats in the universities also. So that's why they did not show any flexibility. So they ended up with the civil war. So now what is about the center state relations among our country? Restructuring the entire state center relations is one more way in which federalism has been strengthened in practice. Situation during ruling party monopoly. Here, ruling party monopoly, what does this statement mean? When a party, when they got majority and they formed the government in the center, and they are called as ruling party. Example, whereas in the regional state governments, the regional parties might have come to power. So there are two various parties here. They are ruling the state and the center has some other party. So they cannot have that monopoly. So that's why situation. What is the situation? For major part of the country, same party was in power in both center and state. As a result, state governments were not in a position to enjoy their rights. Whenever there was a different party in the power in the particular state, central government tried to undermine its influence. Constitution was usually misused to topple unfriendly government in these states. This was an unhealthy practice which was followed. But later, what situations came? We got the coalition system of government. What do you mean by coalition? There are two terms what we generally use in politics in the subject. What are those? One is coalition government, another is like what we call alliance. Alliance means there is lot of difference between coalition and alliance. In an alliance, what do you find? Before announcement of the elections, if two like-minded or two different political parties, they join together and they form an alliance, and then they fight for the elections, or they keep their candidates, common candidates, for contesting the elections, and then they come to power or they win the seats. It is up to their performance. That is called an alliance. Whereas a coalition government means after the election results come up, when no political party gets the largest majority, or they do not get the two-third majority to form a government, then they may take the support of some like-minded political parties, and they all together come together and form an form a coalition and form the government. So this practice has been started in the late 1980s. Many regional parties came up mostly in the southern part of our country and in the northeastern side also, where many regional parties were becoming stronger, and then they got an opportunity to become a member in the coalition governments. So this was a healthy change in the Indian politics. Coalition government. When no single party gets a clean majority in the Lok Sabha, the major national parties enter into alliance with many parties, including several regional parties, to form a government at the center called the coalition government. And now, in the past 20 years, we are seeing coalition governments only. Like the major, we saw UPA government, United Progressive Alliance, or then NDA, National Democratic Alliance. So they have their, these are all coalition governments. So in Indian coalition politics, we have many major political parties. They will be national parties as well as the regional parties. After 1989 pattern has shifted to multi-party coalition government at the center. As a result, a new culture of power sharing and respect for the autonomy of state governments has developed. It can be said that now the federalism is more developed in India. Hello everybody, we are back for the chapter Federalism in the third session, where we are going to learn about decentralization in India. What do we mean by decentralization here? Till now we have studied and learned about the two tiers of the government which are very powerful in our country, that is the central government and the state government. Now we are going to learn about the third tier government. What is it? It is about the local self governments, or we call it as Panchayat Raj governments. What does this mean here? The third tier government, what is its importance, what are their powers, and how we have shared the powers among these three tiers of the government. As we all know, it is very difficult for a large country like India, where only two tier governments cannot function in a required manner. This is because, suppose in European countries, we see in European countries, the countries are so small that those our states are bigger than those countries. For example, if we go with Russia, Russia is smaller than our state Uttar Pradesh. So that's why we need a third tier government. So what is decentralization? When the power is taken away from central government, state government, and given to local government, it is called decentralization. Like in a simple manner or simple words, we can say that division of powers or sharing of powers. Local government is the best way to realize one of the important principle of democracy, namely local self-government. This local self-government, we are calling it as the Panchayat Raj government. Seats are, and what are the benefits given in this? Seats are reserved in the elected bodies and executive heads of these institutions. And as we all know, the reservations what were existing in our constitution for scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other backward classes. And at least minimum of one third of all posts are reserved for women. An independent institution called the State Election Commission has been created in each state to conduct panchayat and municipal elections. These are conducted in a free and fair manner. That is the same way how we conduct the elections for Lok Sabha and Legislative Assembly, the same way even for Panchayat and municipal elections also the same systems and rules are taken. So elections to these local governments were not held regularly previously. Before it was not held regularly, and local governments did not have powers or resources of their own. All these major step towards decentralization was taken in the year 1992. 1992, it was an important time where the constitution was amended to make the third tier of democracy more powerful and effective. It is constitutionally mandatory to hold regular elections to local government bodies. State governments are required to share some powers and revenues with the local government bodies. The nature of sharing varies from state to state because the third tier government, how they have to generate their revenues. For example, villages or municipal corporations. So whatever property tax, example land tax and etc. They are all will be shared by these local self governments and they will be used for the benefits of the people and for the development of the society. Constitutional status for government has helped them to deepen democracy in our country. It has also increased women's representation and voice in our democracy. That is, the role of women became very important here and in the local self-governments, and also for the people who choose their profession into politics. It is a very effective and basic platform for them for their career and for their future. And even women's representation has increased from local self-government to the highest level, that is up to Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha also. Thank you.